With all the young talent on this Miami Heat squad, one player in particular is standing out amongst the rest. We'll break down how that's going to benefit him as well as this Miami Heat squad going into next season. We'll do all that right now on this episode of Heat Digest, so let's get to it and break down how Josh Christopher is receiving cheat codes in Miami. Now, the reason we are using the phrase cheat codes not only because Ira Winderman used that in his title, but because it's a pretty good representation that what goes on when you land in Miami and become a basketball player for this Miami Heat organization under Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra at the helm. Obviously, we've seen it before in the past. This is not this is a reoccurring narrative, as in the sense that these role players that go to the Miami Heat, or just decent / good players go to the Miami Heat, they get put in a role, they get put in a system, and it works exceptionally well. And then we see them go to other teams and they don't seem to perform at the same levels. It happens year after year after year, and we might get another example of it this year with Caleb Martin, who just signed with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, again, he was great for the Miami Heat, and he was a role player. He could play defense effectively on the wings and even inside that three-point line. And obviously, don't even have to tell you about the just outburst of energy from the offensive end on a stagnant Miami Heat offense that needed it desperately. He could hit open threes, he could hit contested threes at times off the dribble, off the catch, and again, he was known to catch the ball at the top of the key, make a pump fake, take one or two dribbles, and do some just ridiculousness getting to the basket and finishing an acrobatic layup. And again, he's not the guy that you would think of to do that, but again, when you're in this Miami Heat system and it calls upon you, it seems like they're just capable of doing it. But now let's break down the article written by Ira Winderman, and the best way I can explain this is by saying I think this is very intriguing. It gives me the feeling that Josh Christopher is very mature and he's very, very smart for understanding the situation he is currently in and what he has to do going forward, as it seems like he's fully understanding of what that may entail. So now let's break it down. It makes no matter that the invitation from the Miami Heat came with the limitations of a two-way contract, meaning half of the veteran minimum salary and no more than 50 of the regular season's 82 games on the active roster. So if you have never known what a two-way contract has really looked like in format, this is exactly it. If you're on a two-way contract, you get half of the veteran minimum salary, as well as you can only be on the active roster 50 of the 82 games out of the regular season. So again, large limitations, especially financially, not making really any money compared to what basically the average NBA player is making. But again, you are only allowed on the active roster for 50 of the 82 games, so just above half, if you will. So now let's move on. The first quote from Christopher says, "I think," the 6-foot guard says, "they've given me the cheat codes of being successful." Now, we've already relayed the term cheat codes and why that is such a good use of this term, especially in this situation. And I'm glad to see Josh Christopher is the one highlighting it that way. Again, just another example of him being very mature. Then we move on. He goes on to say, "I've been in Miami since May," Christopher said. "So before he even took off to Paris, I was around him. I got to meet him and form a building relationship, So we've had conversations, and he actually told me what he wanted to see from me. And each day, he would just let me know. He would vocalize like that, 'I want you to lock guys up. I want 2 steals, and you can lead in deflections,' Christopher related. And I just let the direction guide me the whole summer league, and everything else fell into place after that." Now, I did not know these quotes before reading this article, so knowing this now, Josh Christopher played exceptionally well on the defensive end. He was always jumping passing lanes. He was very, very, very good on the defense. Obviously, he was great offensively, giving us more than 20 points per game. That's great. The defense is what's going to translate. We just released a video on Heat Digest about how we were in the same tier as the Indiana Pacers, who were one of the number one they were the number one offense in the NBA last season. And again, we were very, very competitive with that team last season, but we were nowhere near the top offense. It was because we were number 3 in total defense last season in the NBA. Because of that defense, we are capable of winning games, and players who want to play defense and that are willing to play defense on the Miami Heat will always find playing time. It has always been like that. It will always be like that. But now let's move on to another quote from Josh Christopher, and another very, very mature answer here. It's something that, again, very intriguing to wait to. Now we have to go wait and
for him to actually compete in camp and then in the G League and then hopefully getting called up for a few games in the NBA. But Christopher goes on to say, but now that I'm in this situation, I've been given direction and guidance on how I will succeed, and that is becoming a complimentary player. Again, we could not have gotten better answers from this young man, and it's crazy to think that he's still only 23 or 24 years of age. He has so much upside, and it's not even just the stuff on the court, but now the stuff that we know he's thinking in his head, the way he goes about learning and just gathering information amongst playing with very good coaching staffs, organizations, and other players. This is so intriguing to see, because this is a veteran answer right there. But we go on. I've honestly found joy in that too, morphing into a team guy and somebody who's going to be a part of winning basketball and how I can fit into the puzzle. These are like storybook answers. These couldn't have been better for the Miami Heat, and I'm not exaggerating. You cannot ask for a better answer from such a promising young prospect who was promising before we got any of these quotes due to his athletic ability on the floor. His offense and defense abilities were off the charts for such a young guy. But again, we didn't know this was behind it. All while appreciating that the Heat have become a proving ground and jumping off point for such components, even though on two-way contracts. Again, this is going to be so much fun to watch. I think Josh Christopher is going to take advantage of every minute he gets on a basketball court for this Miami Heat organization, and I think it's going to translate to being a very, very good thing for all parties involved. And again, we'll close it out with this last quote from Josh Christopher as he goes on to say, with a two-way contract, obviously opportunities are shortened, but at the same time, just based on my knowledge with the Heat and what I've been told, and it's been great communication, if you can play ball and you can help your team win, you'll play. For example, Caleb Martin started with the Heat on a two-way contract. They've proven that if you can play, you'll play. They seem to reward players for that, so I'm excited. And again, we could not have gotten better answers from this young man. From start to finish of this article, Ira Winderman did a great job reporting and getting these quotes from Josh Christopher. But again, from start to finish, these are the answers we need to see. And again, I mentioned his scoring averages, and I mentioned how good of a player he was in the G League in the years prior. It's without 22 points per game, 25 points per game, 16.9 points. Obviously, they did go down. He did have more games played, obviously, by a bunch. He only had 3 games played in the first year, 5 games in the second year, and then 14 in that final year last year before he joining this Seafowl Skyforce. So it's going to be very interesting. But again, he's a complete player. That's 17 points, 6 assists, and basically 5 rebounds with 1.5 steals. If you look, the steal numbers, the block numbers are all there. This guy is a guard. He's reminding me a lot of Dwayne Wade. I'm not saying he's on the level of Dwayne Wade. He's not on the caliber of Dwayne Wade. But the playing type. He's a slashing 2/3 player, shooting guard / small forward. He's a slasher. He can shoot, but he's more of a slasher. And defensively, he jumps passing lanes. He's all over the place. You give him a 1, 2, or a 3, he can guard all of them. It doesn't matter if it's on the ball or off the ball. He can get around screens. He can jump passing lanes. He can pick your pocket when you're trying to dance in front of him. And if you blow by him, he's athletic enough to keep up with you and come over the top and block your shot. He is a freak, and he can really, really get the job done. And because of his mentality, because of what we've seen from him in the past, this might be the guy for the Miami Heat going forward. I'm not saying he's going to be Jimmy Butler, but there's a chance he slowly but surely molds into one of the key players for this Miami Heat team by the middle point of this season, and I would not be surprised if we saw his two-way contract be turned into something a bit different, if not before the end of this year, definitely by this up-and-coming offseason. Because Josh Christopher, without a doubt, with the mentality and with the skill set, is going to be undeniable. But again, let me know how you guys feel about it down in the comments. That is it for this episode of Heat Digest. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys on the next one.